Chamber. Also those joining us online, this is the Tuesday,
Recording
December
in progress.
19th, Weber County Board of Commissioners. I'm Commissioner Gage Furr. I'll be conducting this morning. With me to my left is Commissioner Sharon Bolos. To my right, Commissioner Jim Harvey. We're going to start this meeting this morning with a Pledge of Allegiance given by our own Christy Bingham. Our invocation, I'm not sure who, I don't have Kobabe. Bill, there you are. Okay. For some reason that was left off. And the thought of the day, Commissioner Bolos. We'll go to that point. Christy.
Our righteous Father in heaven, we are grateful to be met here today. We're grateful for this wonderful community that we get to call home. We are grateful for those who serve and sacrifice in our behalf. We are grateful especially for our first responders, our police and firefighters, and for all of those who are overseas at this time of year. We're mindful of them, Heavenly Father, and for their sacrifices. And we pray for them that they will be safe and that they will be protected and that they will be inspired in making good decisions. At this time of year, Father, we pray that Thy Spirit will attend us, that we will be more gentle, that we will be more giving and thoughtful, and that we will make this season bright and happy. Dear Father, we love Thee so much. We pray that Thy Spirit will attend us as we discuss the matters that are on the agenda and that are of importance to the county. We pray that we will be instruments in Thy hands in making good decisions. We love Thee, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Bolos.
I just finished a book recently called The In-Between by Hadley Vallejos. She's a nurse who does hospice care. She's quite young, and she shares some of the experiences that she had with some of her patients and the lessons that she learned from them. And not all of her patients were older. Some of them were quite young, and the conversations she had with them and their families brought her a lot of lessons. And I came to the conclusion after reading that I think that some of the smartest people in the world are those who know that they're at the end of their lives, because they have it, regardless of how old they are, because they have a chance to look back and reflect on everything that they've experienced and the lessons that they've learned. And she just shares some of those things that her patients and their families shared with her, and I thought it can be very insightful to have conversation with someone who knows that they're done living, and they have a chance to reflect and to share those things that they've learned.
Good, yeah. Amazing who we learn from on a daily basis, isn't it? Commissioners, without objection, I'm going to move our agenda, the agenda public comments. I'm going to move that after the presentation. We have two great presentations this morning, and they may take a while. And I know that the people here for the presentations have somewhat of a busy schedule, so we're going to recognize their time, and we'll go to presentations without objection. Please. All right, seeing none, let's go to presentations. We have, again, as I said, two great presentations this morning. The first, we want to recognize our soon-to-retire Ogden City Mayor, Mr. Mike Caldwell. Mike has served coming up 12 years, from what I understand. He served the Ogden City community in a very productive, professional manner. He's done a great job leading that city, and all the employees that work for Ogden City that I've talked to have nothing but praise about Mike's hard work and what he's done to move that community forward. I'll say one thing from the county standpoint. Mike has always been involved, interested in what we have done as a county, from economic development all the way through. Him and his team have been big supporters of what we've tried to accomplish in Weber County. And being the major city, the county seat, it's very important that we have Ogden City involved with discussions, because as I said before, as Ogden City goes, That's where Weber County will go. And Mike's done a great job in leadership. The new mayor's going to have some big shoes to fill, but we just wanted to take this time to give special recognition to Mike and his longevity in serving the citizens of Ogden City and Weber County. Commissioner Harvey, I know you've got comments.
Let me yield to Commissioner Bolos first. and
Okay.
I'll wrap up if I can.
You can wrap up, all right.
See if I steal any of your thunder, are you?
Well, I don't
You
wanna-
may regret that. She may take your speed. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Bullock.
Well, I had the great opportunity of working with Mike when I was the mayor of West Haven and being part of WACOG and being on some committees with him. And I've learned a lot from him and appreciate your mentorship, Mike. You've done a lot of great things for the city. My dad also worked for Ogden City. Part of the time that, part of his service was during your term. And he always has high praise. If I want to know anything about anyone at Ogden City, I can ask my dad. He knows who's who and what they do. So Mike has a great reputation. He's done a lot of great things for Ogden. I just really appreciate all that. Thank you.
Okay, you're up.
Pardon me for getting a little personal. First off, we welcome the who's who of Ogden City here. There's so many great folks here that have come to, I know, support you on this, Mike, because I know they're not here to speak on the other things we've got on the agenda. You know, a long time ago, when the Olympics announced that they would bring the 2002 Olympics to Salt Lake City, they hired a ringer and brought in Mike Caldwell to run the ice sheet in curling. And that's when I first met Mike. Back before then, it's been nearly 25 years. And we worked in tandem, side by side. As I was out at the Golden Spike, we ran different respective venues for a lot of years. I got to talk to Mike a little more as we changed out some of our lighting inside the arenas. Mike came out on his own time with his own truck to pick up some lighting so that the product at the ice sheet could be a little bit better. I don't know if you remember that, Mike, but I sure do. It was a Nissan Titan truck you had. And you're, of course, well, yeah, I remember. We picked him up under the grandstand and we had a great conversation. Mike continued to lead. And then for the county, he did a wonderful job for the Olympics. And then for the county, he was brought downtown and he played an integral role in the creation of many programs that are successful in Weber County today, and was the first person who worked on RAMP, took care of RAMP for a lot of years for us. He also took care of some economic development and many other programs that we were here, and then decided it would be a good time 12 years ago, or actually 13 years ago, to run for the mayor of Ogden City. He's done a wonderful job being in this role. Well, let me just keep going on the calendar. One of the first persons after working at the Golden Spike and not having any idea what politics were like, Mike was one of the first people I called. And without hesitation, he was incredibly supportive when in those campaigns, and it's scary. Because I'd put my whole career on the line to see if this would work. Mike was always there and would always call back and offer reassurance. And he was a great mentor, really. And we've had great personal discussions. Oftentimes Mike and I have met and just talked about different things. Since that time, being on different boards around the state, Mike has led those boards. He's been one who is the chairman of the board, or as the past chair, where he's been responsible from whether it's WFRC or whether it's even down at the state legislature, bringing tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars to the benefit of the people of Weber County or Ogden City, but also extending past to Weber County. I remember many times driving to work after Mike was first elected. And one of the big things, too, after Mike was elected was that horrific shooting of an officer. 2 or 3, 4 days in is all it was. 1 day in, sorry. And he handled himself with poise and with maturity, and was that day and was always an ally for first responders. It's a horrible way to get a first impression to start an office term. But you've done a wonderful job, Mike, and I remember too, in those first little while when Mike was in office, he also decided he was going to bike to work. I always thought that Mike didn't have a drug problem, but he must have done something, because there were a lot of times I'd be driving to work and it was snowing, and Mike, I knew Mike was biking to work, or I thought, well, maybe he took the day off. And later that day I'd talk to him, and I rode my bike to work that day, and it's not that easy of a climb to get back home to where he lives. And just from one to another, to another, to another, Mike has set a positive example. I love you, friend. I appreciate you and appreciate your example. I hope you have many more years and chapters of your life that are filled with the type of positive that you've allowed people to feel under your direction, and you deserve it. You and your family, you've got a beautiful family, and I just wish you great health as you move on. Those are about the nicest things I can say that's not at your funeral, Mike, but that's about where I could go to. Thanks for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor, it's now your opportunity to refute any of what has been said, so. This may be your last opportunity as well, so.
Well, I'll have a couple comments, and that was very kind. I appreciate you all. And, I did spend a decade here. I've spent almost as much time working for the county as I did for the city. And I want to echo the gratitude for my family. No, I'll get emotional, but it's been tough on them. It's been tough on everybody. It's been an amazing 12 years. It's been a phenomenal run. What's happened in our community in the last decade or two is breathtaking. We get that from the state level. We get that from everyone else. So I first want to thank my family, and then I want to thank my group of department directors. None of what we do happens without an amazing team around you. And you made reference to some of the really unique, difficult things that we had to deal with. I was telling Mara, this might be inappropriate in a public meeting, but I felt like I was a quarterback for the Eagles where I got the tush push. They did everything else, and then they got the last yard, and they could never stop our team in the last yard. If it was 3rd and 9 or 4th and 1 or whatever, we had almost 100% success ratio because of the people I've had an opportunity to work with and spend time with, and I got to see their dedication and get out of their way and allow them to do the good work that mattered here. So it's been the honor of my life to have served with this group of men and women, with you all, to see the changes that have happened in our community. Not a lot of people have the blessing of being able to serve like I've been able to serve with so many different groups and organizations, and to have just a love for what we do, what we represent up here, and for those that we get to serve. So it's been a real honor, and I really have appreciated the working relationship that we've had together. I would refute one thing. Jim did say that 13 years ago I had the great idea that it might be a good time to run for the mayor of Ogden City. There's never a good time to run for the mayor of Ogden City. So anybody that's listening, that's thinking about it, think long and hard, because I was totally brown-haired, young, spry, racing mountain bikes, doing everything else 12 years ago. Now I'm gray, broken, and looking forward to the next things. But again, a huge thank you to my family. Kaylee talked at a thing we had on Friday night with our department directors, and everybody's talked about how articulate and great they are. And so the legacy that we've left in the community is awesome. The legacy I want to take forward is these 3 individuals we have sitting here today, and I look forward to being able to spend more time with them and do some more unique things. So this really means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd just say, Mike, we appreciate your dedication, and I totally understand that your staff, I recognize your staff and your family here. Without great staff, great help, and family, politics is not that easy a job. And I think that gray hair shows that. But it takes people that are willing to look at both sides, which you are, to make the right decisions to move this community forward. And you've made the right decisions. I just want to say that. With that, Mike, we're going to give you a couple of little mementos of our appreciation. We have a Weber County belt buckle here. I'm going to let Commissioner Harvey explain the significance of that, since I named that very fondly the Jim Harvey belt buckle. Then we have the Weber County book that I'm going to have Commissioner Bolos present to you. Commissioner Harvey, do you want to give a little thought on that belt buckle?
We've always been a Western heritage, Mike. And aside from the wonderful presentation that the folks from the foundation, Pioneer Days, put on, it all started in Weber County. The placards out there, even Peter Skeen Ogden came after John C. Weber. And so the Weber County buckle is something that you can wear. It's a classy piece. It's not overbearing, but it's a classy piece that you can put on one of your favorite leather belts with your cowboy
I won't be
boots or display.
attending as many rodeos in the future as I have in the past, but I will certainly put that on for the future.
You could actually put this on your bicycle and ride with this.
That'd come in handy.
Yeah.
And let me mention, that's #1 of the belt buckles, so.
Series, this is number
Number,
one.
you know, just like a cowboy, that's #1
Inaugural
of the
belt buckle,
series.
you
so.
get it.
Commissioner Bowles, anything on that Weber County
We
book?
just have a book of photos in Weber County, and we all took a chance to sign that inside and leave you a short message, so I want to present that to you as well.
All right, well, we're going to go up front and give you these personally, Mike.
Big one, that's a big one, I earned that one. We'll dress this picture up way more than that.
Okay, count to count 3. 1, 2, 3. Take one more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Leave all of the rest of the agenda, it's pretty long, we're gonna duck out. Don't have to attend meetings, they don't need to.
Thanks again, Mayor, and thanks to all your great staff that showed up in support. All right, we do have one additional presentation, and this is a presentation to Weber Human Services, and I see Kevin Eastman in the back along with his crew, and this is deals with the $40,000 award that was a portion of Weber County's share of the National Opioid Settlement, official settlement. This award is being used as the Weber County Jail for medication-assisted treatment, MAT as we call it, of inmates and addicted opioids. And John Bond is going to make this presentation and explain kind of what we've gone through in the process to allocate and prioritize these opioid settlement dollars that we've received. Mr. John Bond, welcome.
Commissioners, thanks for letting us be on the agenda today. We've invited the individuals from Weber Human Services as well as the Weber County Sheriff's Office to participate briefly with us today. This marks the beginning, second part of awards that the commissioners will work toward over the next coming 15 years of funds that will be given to the county from a national settlement from several large companies who were involved in opioid drug and marketing of that drug nationally. It was deemed that those companies should participate in providing funds nationally to help curb an opioid epidemic. We project over the next 15 years, 17 years, that the county will probably receive over $20 million. Counties throughout the state, throughout the nation will receive a tremendous amount of money to try and help individuals who have been impacted and their families, which is significant. And I think our role, Commissioner's role in this moment, is to recognize the challenge that these families are going through and help. So today we have a small amount of money today that will start. The public defender has received a portion of that funding already. This is the second grant that will be provided. We'd like to take a moment and have participants from the Weber County Sheriff's Office as well as Weber Human Services come forward if it's okay, and just take a minute and outline their role in this. The state of Utah has participated by a $200,000 grant. So this $200,000 from the state of Utah plus $40,000 from our funds, $240,000 will be provided annually if possible from the state for the next 3 years to help those addicted to opioids that are currently in the Weber County Jail, to help assist them to help in their lives and help with a certain type of medicine that will help them, as well as counseling, and help them get their feet underneath them a little bit more. And hopefully that will assist their families to get them back out and have a different trajectory in their lives. So if it's okay, we'd like to ask those two groups to come forward.
That'd be great. Kevin, do you want to come up? And then right after that, we'll hear from the sheriff. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. And can't say too much more than what's really already been outlined, and I won't prolong the meeting by any means, but maybe what I would say is just thank you for your oversight and responsibility with this money. Very important money, and it is money that I'm glad to see there's responsibility for some of the addiction problems that we face here in Weber County and really across the nation. And this will be a beginning start of that. We very much appreciate your role in the stewardship over that and the process that has been undertaken so that we can match and leverage this money with state money and get the maximum effect for it. So we appreciate very much our partnership with Weber County Correctional Facility, the Sheriff's Organization. We partner on many fronts, and it's very refreshing, not that it hasn't been existent before in our relationships with sheriff organizations, but our sheriff is very interested in rehabilitation of people and their lives. And I'm very grateful to be working at this time in partnership with him and their organization, where his interest is really to get people better. He doesn't want to see them return to the jail. And so this will be a great effort in that part. It'll also help with management of individuals who are addicted, because they can have very strong behaviors, as you would know, as they're arrested and put into a correctional facility. So it'll help on all those fronts, give these people a head start in trying to get rid of that addiction in their lives. So we really appreciate your role, our partnership in this process, and just want to thank you for that opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Sheriff, or looks like Chief
Reese.
Reese is coming up. Okay.
Yeah, to be very clear, I'm not
I didn't recognize you with the beard, Chief, so
Most people, I don't either, most of the time. Most mornings I don't either. Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. I would like to lead the moment by offering my deep gratitude for the team at Weber Human Services and for our partnership with our folks at the Sheriff's Office. When I say that we've truly become a singular team with a unified vision of providing the very best services for those members of our population that are at their very most vulnerable, I'm very sincere in that. our teams have come together and become one team. And I very much appreciate the kind words Mr. Eastman spoke of, we've always had a partnership, but we've really melded into a team, and I appreciate that greatly. Yesterday, the sheriff was kind enough to allow me to attend a meeting with some of the top executives of the Department of Corrections. At the end of that meeting, they offered an incredibly humbling compliment of how innovative and forward-thinking we are here in Weber County, and that often they find that we in Weber County are leading the way in our state. Our collaboration in this endeavor, to me, hammers that home, that we are again, with the help of Weber Human Services, leading our state forward in a triumphant path of innovation. These funds will be used to accelerate with jetpacks, literally accelerate us forward in our ability to provide medicated assisted treatment for those inmates in our population. Further, and for me more importantly, it gives them community resources as they leave our facility to provide them strength and a foundation and continuing support to recover from their illness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Bond, did you want to make that presentation of the
Yeah.
40,000? Good. So, Sheriff, did you want to add anything, or, okay, seeing none. I just wanted to echo a little bit what Mr. Bond said. So this actually was the second payment from those opioid settlement funds. The first went to public defenders. So the funds we've used, and I think, when did the settlement get approved by the state? Was that about a year ago or so, as I remember? So the settlement was finally approved, and we recognized that the amount of money that would possibly be coming our way. We had a number of requests to basically start using that money. The commissioners decided at that point in time we wanted to put the pause button on just a little bit and make sure that these dollars went to solve human problems, not create programs or other expansion of government that didn't benefit the individual, didn't benefit those people that the Chief Reese and the sheriff are making sure don't go back to jail. Addiction is a huge factor in our community. It's a huge factor across the state. It needs to be dealt with. Unfortunately, that's something that we're tasked with doing. And one of the premises that we came up with in looking at how we pass out these and how we give money to these opioid settlement providers was, let's use the state dollars, because the state also had some. In this case, I think they're putting up $200,000. We definitely wanted to leverage the state. And as we met with the state and looked at their programs, we wanted to make sure that we were in congruence, worked along what the state was promoting, so we weren't out on our own. And this, I think, Kevin, correlates very well with what the state's done. Obviously, with them putting in $200,000, they're a believer in this program. So I'd say very much that Weber County is excited about this. Again, these funds will be used. They'll be used on a very conservative, cautious basis, and making sure that that money gets to the end of the row, solves the problem, solves the human problem, without creating additional programs that are expense to taxpayers. So we're excited about that. Commissioner Bolos, additional comments?
Just want to echo the comments that this is a great partnership. I've seen that work in the past year, as both of those departments are in my portfolio, and learned for myself how important it is to help individuals. And I think the sooner we recognize that the root of a lot of the problems with incarceration come from addiction and mental health, the better off we're going to be, because as we help those individuals, we'll be able to help our own society, help ourselves, really. And when we care about people and what puts them in the position they're in, then I think we start to solve problems. So thank you.
Commissioner Harvey.
I appreciate Weber Human Services after, and only to still learning, but I know that our Weber Human Services is an outcome-based organization. They're not just based on numbers and the numbers treated, but it's the outcome of the effectiveness of how well they're done. So this is absolutely the best place we could put this money for this, to hit this head on. And so I'm grateful, Kevin, but to the staff here, Jed and Mr. Hershey that are here, that are with you today, but also your whole team there. Please pass on our respect and appreciation, if you would, please.
So, Mr. Bond, since your name's on this check, on the signature, made out to Weber Human Services, I'm going to have you present it. We'll come up, though, and make sure we get a picture of this with you. So I'm going to bring this check up to you. Commissioners? Sheriff, get the rest of Kevin's crew up there.
Alright, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Grab one more. Oh, sorry, one more. I apologize. 1, 2, 3.
All right, let's move on with our agenda. Look forward to hearing some of the results from that.
I'll say.
I think that'll be good.
And because they're a results-based organization, I'm
Yeah.
sure we will see them.
Money well spent. All right, Commissioners, so let's go now to our public comment sections after those two fine presentations we had to very deserving people and organizations. We'd now open it up to public comments. The public comments need to be related to anything on the agenda. Relate those to the agenda items, and we'd ask that you keep your time 3 minutes or less. Mr. Ricky Hatch, if you've got I don't see your clock, but anybody now in the chamber that'd like to come forward and address any of the agenda items, now's your opportunity. Welcome. Just tell us who you are,
Okay,
where you're from.
I'm Laura Warburton, and I'm from Huntsville. I live in unincorporated Huntsville, Weber County. Good morning, Commissioners. First, I would like to explain, because there's quite a bit of misunderstanding around the issue of Eden Crossing and my play in this. There's been often a lot of insinuations about my personal relationship with the Commissioners. I would like to make it public record that I have never once had a private meal with any of you. I have never once had a social event with any of you. I didn't even know Shane Dunleavy even existed until 5 months ago. Rather nice chap. And then John and I obviously served on the Planning Commission. I want you to know that there is not one person in this room, nor has there been anybody in this room besides me that has had more time right now, today, in the planning of the general plan. And that is the truth. And I dare invite anybody to discredit that. Why anybody would get up here and say that this program for Eden Crossing goes against the general plan, I have no idea what their agenda is. None whatsoever. I know what my agenda is. My agenda is the valley, to keep it beautiful, to keep it free, to make it so that people that follow them are treated fairly and equally under the law. And so that's what I count on you to do. I count on you to treat everybody equally. And the general plan is the law. It's general. It's not a master plan. It is general, but it is good. So I am here as a proponent to keep the valley free. And let's keep on following the plan until it changes, which it will at some point. We'll open it up again and be able to change it again. But till we do that, it is the law, and it must be applied equally amongst everybody. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you put up with. I don't even know how you do it, and I don't want any part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate you being here. Anyone else? Now's your opportunity. Just introduce yourself with your name, and again, 3 minutes or less.
Yes.
And let's address the agenda items only.
Yes, this is an agenda item. My name is Jan Fulmer. I'm at 3741 Red Hawk Circle. Excuse me. And I'm going to ask the commissioners to please reconsider or give it a little bit more time before you approve this Eden Crossing Development Agreement. The Eden Crossing Development Agreement allows for buildings to be up to 50 feet in high. That's in section 11.3. I'm not an architect, but it also seems to violate section 104-22-6, the building design standards in the form-based zone. And I did talk to an architect. I don't have the experience there. I wanted to make sure I was stating something correctly. While Weber County Planning did in fact have a community meeting with the residents around Old Town Eden to find out what would they like to see in the new design, there's been no meeting for the residents in Newtown Eden. As a matter of fact, there was a whole other area that was originally planned based on the plans Charlie had put together for what was going to be Newtown Eden. All of a sudden now Eden Crossing is now called Newtown Eden, and there's been no community input, nothing to talk to the community about what would they like to see. The total development units on 20 acres, just based on the math in this development agreement, was approximately 350. And I erred when I put out an email to the Valley distribution list saying that 25% of the 350 would be used for short-term rentals. Mr. Dunleavy, who I don't know if I've met, but is a partner in the Legacy Development, said, no, that's not right. So I stand corrected, but in reading just the development agreement, it was not clear. Are these units going to be for hotel rooms, for how many for short-term rentals? Sorry, commissioners, and I told Mr. Dunleavy I'm more than willing to put out a correction to that or anything else that I published. Please just let me know what to do. Also, in the development agreement, it does say that 25% of a certain number of units would be for short-term rentals. And Commissioner Harvey, at the December 5th meeting hearing you folks had, at the end of that meeting, Commissioner, you said, should be owner-occupied. The units should be owner-occupied. That doesn't imply short-term rentals. The other thing that is extremely disturbing, there's a section in this development agreement, and maybe this needs to be directed to legal, but it implies that if the county agrees to this development agreement, the developer wants to opt out of any potential incorporation that could occur. Does that give the county the authority to supersede what's in the state? And why on earth is this part of the development agreement?
I think that's your 3 minutes, Jan.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
David Carver, Eden. With this agreement, will we see the agreement, and will it be in the minutes? Will it be on a website that we have access to it? And is it this agreement, will it be signed between Weber County and the developer? Does anybody have an answer for that? Is
I
there-
think that'll be discussed when they make their presentation.
Okay, if they can let us know on that.
Yeah, we'll make sure those are addressed when they make the presentation.
And has there been a second study regarding the wetlands in the Eden Crossing to the north? Is that been done? Are we waiting for that?
And that can also be addressed, but to answer your question, that would all have to be, any of the studies, including transportation, wetlands, et cetera, would have to be completed by and approved by our engineer before any final plat was recorded.
Okay,
That could be addressed also by staff.
okay. The reason I am interested is the road's already started to go in. It's just north of my house. There'll be the 350 plus the 250 that's right behind this Valley Market, and that is with the, I just lost the name of it, development. And so we're talking about in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 units within a half a mile radius. And on the December 5th, one of the public people got up and he said, how are we going to get cars here? How are we going to get people here? And it's never discussed anywhere. And I suppose that is the state of Utah's problem, because I read a study that said you can't increase the size of Ogden Canyon and you can't increase the size of the divide. So we're talking about coming up Trapper's Loop. Is this development have any answer to deal with that? Or is that just something that the state will have to deal with? Do we have an answer on that?
Well, if it's a state highway, obviously UDOT in control of the state highway, so.
Yeah, so that will be their problem. But that's a good point, is how you're going to get all these cars up here. The other issue is in my website, we're developing a petition that's signed individually that's a boycott petition that boycotts any and all retail projects that relate to this subject that are competitive with the existing people. So just thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, next.
Commissioners, my name is Robert Wadman. I've lived in Eden, Utah for 26 years. I'm a retired Weber State University professor. I firmly support Eden Crossing. I think it's going to be a great improvement. I have been through several of the meetings, the Planning Commission's meeting, the Commissioners' meeting, and now this meeting. And throughout those meetings, I've heard that progress is going to come to the valley. And I think that that's been firmly stated in a reality. And I think the progress that's coming is coming with the developers that live in the valley. And that's an important issue for me, in that the reality of trying to improve and see progress in a very professional way, that a person who lives here, I think, is aware of the amenities that need to be sustained. And I fully support that. I have 4 children. My wife and I have 12 grandchildren, all of whom are adult, and now 11 great-grandchildren. When we get together for Christmas, our home has 2 bedrooms. We've been, like I said, in Eden for 26 years. To get them together, they have to stay in hotels in Ogden. And it's a challenge time-wise, it's a challenge expense-wise. A new hotel that is a reasonable size is, to me, a tremendous benefit to my family and to the valley. In the course of this, there's been some misstatements. I've been accused of being the father of Shane Dunleavy in the newspaper by inference, not by name. I received several, I would describe them as antagonistic phone calls. of which I didn't deserve, although I think he's a fine gentleman. He's not my son, and I have no other association whatsoever with these developers. I'm just a citizen in Eden. I also am a citizen that firmly supports property rights, and I think reading the Constitution, they followed the plan. They're pretty much protected by their positions by the law, and I support the law. Appreciate your work, and thank you for the time.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Wadman, and I apologize. There's been a lot of miscommunication up there for whatever reason. I would hope that the citizens double-check their facts before they state something, and I know that that was very personal to you. We up here, we get accused a lot of times, and we don't have a defense, to attack citizens that are here expressing what they have under the Constitution, in my opinion, is totally unfair, unwarranted. And I would just ask those that are publicizing to, as I said in that first meeting, it's okay to disagree, but let's not be disagreeable. Let's be kind to each other. That's what the community's about.
Just one last comment. Working with a large newspaper, I was advised, don't get into an argument that people buy ink in 55-gallon barrels. And so I don't have a newspaper to defend myself with. No. And I think it's important to mention that.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. Anyone else? Now's your opportunity.
How do I speak online?
Go ahead. Tell us who you are.
This is Terry Zanger calling from Huntsville, and I'd like to turn my time over to Jan Fulmer if she'd like to take it.
No, we're not going to allow any. You can say we're not allowing. That wasn't on the agenda.
What wasn't on the agenda?
To transfer. If you want to make your own comments, that's great. But we're not allowing the time to be allocated to somebody else.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll make my own comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm actually really surprised at how quickly this agreement came together. I'm with Jan Fulmer that I feel like public notice was not given. I'm feeling very much left out of the loop. After the last meeting, especially comments by, oh, brother, who's sitting right next to you, Gage?
Commissioner Harvey.
Harvey. Condescending remarks to the people who live up in the valley. You know, I feel like our presentations were well thought out. They were unemotional. They were very factual. I feel like we were not listened to. I feel like that's a pattern, not particular to you three people, but to the Ogden commissioners in general. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating that the way that the process is unfolded. It creates suspicion in our mind. It creates a lack of trust that we can't be heard and that the process can't just be slowed down. I just feel like there are so many unanswered questions, and the answer that we've been given is, oh, it will be worked out. Well, I feel like it needs to be worked out now before the agreement goes into place. I don't think the agreement, I don't think it should be happening anyway. I don't feel like John Lewis's property rights have been trampled on. He bought the property as agricultural, knowing that it was agricultural. You can certainly ask for it to be changed, but there's nothing that says that it has to be changed, that the zoning has to be changed. I don't feel like any wrong has been done to him, you know, as far as property rights go. I think they've been respected. I feel like what's happening now is that the property rights of the people living next to him are not being respected. So many things, just so many things. The whole process is just so frustrating, and I really, really wish that the commissioners would listen to the people who are going to be impacted and who live here in the valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, anyone online or in the chamber?
I have a comment.
Hold on a second.
Online.
Come on up. We've got one in the chamber here.
Okay, somebody left their phone here. Is that you? Okay, there you go. Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Irene Derman. I live in 4061 East Bluebell Drive, Eden. Commissioners, thank you so much for your approval of Eden Crossing. This is probably going to be a little redundant on other things I've said, but it's in the reverse now. The key amenities that we've been missing in our valley, I'm now just thrilled to be part of the expansion that is going to take place here. That we'll have a hotel, increased housing facilities, not just for my family and friends, but everybody who's coming into the valley is going to be a huge boon, as well as new places to dine and to shop. The concept of the planned offerings, boutiques, a spa, retail stores, and a way for the artists in our community, and we have many, to contribute to the aesthetics in this valley. It's just a wonderful inclusion. I can't say enough about it. I'm thrilled. I'm delighted with the planning of the proposed traffic routes, retail stores, including a roundabout and the walkable plaza and Main Street, where we can enjoy all that Eden will have to offer in the future. And as well as the ability to have the markets and festivals, having this in our community is going to mean the world. Commissioners, thank you again for your confront of what was needed and your tenacity throughout the many meetings, reviews, discussions, not to mention the extensive research you must have undertaken to ensure that these plans and this expansion is needed, is legitimate, and that it will work. It is much appreciated. This is a big win for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Was there somebody online?
Yes.
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
My name is Tally Matheson. I live in Eden. I'd like to agree with a few things that were said, but disagree that we do not need a hotel. We have hotels. They are not at capacity. And if you really want to feel like it's a big win, then you need to talk to the big win. You need to talk big win to the people that actually live right next to it, not the people that are here just just on vacation. It's not very fair. But I have a couple questions. I went through the proposal development. I read all 27 pages, and here's a couple of questions I would really like addressed by the developers. And I don't think you should sign this and agree to it until some of these things are addressed. One of them was the same as was said before. Can this development waive the right to be annexed? Does that supersede any kind of state responsibility? The roundabout, I'm extremely concerned about a roundabout. I have children that use that often. I use it often. My family uses it often. And I would like to see a safety study to see what kind of safety requirements would need to happen. I can't even imagine trying to have junior high children crossing to go to school when Powder Mountain people are trying to get up to Powder Mountain and they're trying to cross a roundabout. That doesn't seem safe to me. And I really feel like before you do that, you really need to look at that and see what the impacts are going to be for the people that are walking. I'd like to know where the TDRs that are coming from Osprey and Legacy Ranch, are those actual building lots that are coming from TDRs, or are those just acreage that he is counting that he can take that acreage, from the mountainside and put it on the farmland? I don't feel like, I think that needs to be actual building lots to be able to do that. And that I feel like really is important to be able to see. Short-term rentals, how are you going to reinforce that across the street is owner occupied, but then this one side is short-term rentals? I don't know how that's enforceable. And it's a little bit unclear for me, is the hotel occupancy counted in that 25%? I really value Jim Harvey's comments on the last meeting where he asked for that to be really taken down, but is that 110 or whatever the accommodations are for the hotel, is that included in the 25%, or does the 25% supersede that 110 room occupancy and it's above and beyond? That's not clear, and I don't feel like should be signed if that isn't clear. The other thing I noticed that would like to be addressed is the impact fees for the residential lots that are going in the future. There was a lot of talk about the master developer getting reimbursed for this roundabout and all of his development that's required for him to take it up there? Like, how does that work for small independent lot homeowners, you know, when they're trying to build just above there? Like, do they have to pay into Eden Crossing to be able to use the roundabout because their lot is up the road? So there's a couple of questions that I have. I'd like them to be addressed. I think that they're a fair addressment. I can talk a lot about emotions and feelings, and I'm not going to, but there are some significant things in this plan that really need to be addressed before you sign this.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll ask staff to address those questions when appropriate. Anyone else in the chamber or online?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Crystal Schweppe. I
Hi,
too am
welcome.
a Valley resident. I am also impacted by Eden Crossing. I am a neighbor to this development, and I show my support for this. As a local business owner that I live and I work in the Valley, there's really a lack of retail space or commercial space for businesses like myself and other types of businesses. Currently have a small office out of the way, not convenient for my clients to see me, and I certainly don't have any visibility. I rely a lot on just word of mouth because my business is out of the way. I would look forward to having a place I could ride my bike to work, have a little shop, a little storefront in a community. I think that's great. I look forward to the day that we could have a Chinese takeout restaurant. That sounds amazing to me. I love the idea of just a community that's walkable, that's bikeable, where we can have, you know, festivals and community come together. One of my favorite things about living in the Valley is meeting people from all over the world that come to see us. My husband and I have met people time and time again who just love coming to visit us, stay in short-term rentals. There is a lack of, obviously, hotels. There is not a hotel in the Valley. When you stay in a short-term rental, you know, it's typically 2, 3, 4, 7 bedrooms. Hotels are just more convenient to some people. I greatly am really excited about this project. I think there's a lot of community support, and I think there's a lot of fear of people stating their community support. The couple of times I've been vocal on community platforms, I've been attacked, I've been told to move, I've been told to take my business elsewhere. That's not where my business is. I want to live and work where my neighbors are, where my friends are, where I have opportunity. And I believe there's been a lot of thought and planning that's gone into this, and I just really look forward to it. I see a lot of benefits to Eden Crossing, and you know, we have 7,300 residents that live in the Valley. I think there's a few vocal, you know, maybe 100, maybe 2 that are very vocal against it, but we have 7,300 residents in the Valley, plus thousands of visitors that come see us every year. I'd love just to see us shine and share more of who we are and what we have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, anyone else? Welcome.
Commissioners, I'm Mark Schweppe. My lovely wife, Crystal, just spoke. We are Eden residents. I've lived in Liberty, grew up in North Ogden. I've seen lots of changes in the Valley, like you mentioned in the last meeting. You know, I saw when they raised the level of the dam initially, and was out there, you know, as a young boy, and used to watch the ponies and go to the monastery. A lot of changes have happened over the years, and it's inevitable, and it's grown, and it will continue to grow. And I think the sentiment that instigated me to share with you a letter I sent originally was the divisiveness of how the Valley is divided against this, and it seems to be a real chasm. And I didn't like the personal attacks with the developers. Now, I know the developers. Some have expressed they don't know who they are. I know the developers. I've worked alongside them. I understand their integrity and their love of the Valley and their desire to do what's best for the Valley, because other developers could come in from out of town, out of state, like they have in other areas of the state, and not really care and not have to worry about what people think, because they're not residents. They don't rub shoulders with them at the grocery store or at the gas station. And I've come to realize that being a developer in Ogden Valley is a fairly thankless job. And I think we see a lot of opposition to what's happening, but we don't see a lot of thanks. And we have a lovely golf course that's part of the developers program. We have a brand new golf club, or a golf pro shop, that is provided by the developers. We have a lovely community athletic club that's provided by the developers. So a lot of these things you don't hear about, that and you just see the negative. And I realize it's public, or they take a lot of flack because they are in the limelight and they're making things happen. And there are three types of people in the world. There's the people who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who say, "Hey, what happened?" And it's easy to be part of the problem. It's harder to be part of the solution. And I think it's an opportunity for all of us now to decide how the valley grows in the future, how it looks, how it feels. I love the fact that we have a roundabout and not any streetlights. That's one of my very favorite things we have in the valley. I used to drive through the North Fork River on River Road when you drove through the river instead of over it. And that was always fun. And we all live in the valley for certain reasons. And we've all come here, if we didn't grow up here, just because it embodies a lovely, wonderful thing that we're all seeking. It's a way to live. It's a lifestyle. And my wife and I and some partners have owned the hotel in Ogden Canyon, the Alaskan Inn. We understand the need for people to come to the valley and stay. There is a hotel. It's small. It will be underserved as the valley grows, and they do a great job in Huntsville. But we'll need more space, especially with the short-term rentals being shut down with private homes. There will be a need for accommodations for people to come to the valley, and we just don't have that right now, and it's becoming more difficult as that happens. So I just wanted to speak for Eden Development. I think it'll be a wonderful addition to our community.
Right. Perfect timing. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right, Commissioners. Seeing no others, I'm going to move on the agenda. Appreciate those that took the time to be with us this morning. We've taken notes of your comments. We're going to ask when we get to that part of the agenda, which hopefully will be within the next hour or so, Charlie will address those questions that have been brought up to the best of our knowledge. So with that, Commissioners, without any comments or other questions, I'm going to move the consent items, G1 through 16. Okay, we have a long consent items. So let's start with request for approval of warrants 9644 through 9702 and 481087 through 481264 and number 320 in the amount of $1,840,899.69. 2, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $165,607.83. And 3, for a summary of warrants and purchase orders, we'll go to Mr. Ricky Hatch, who is with us. Mr. Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 14 purchase orders this week for $166,000. 40% of that amount, or $66,000, is for the jail to go towards a health systems inventory to purchase inmate mattresses and cleaning supplies. 19%, or $31,000, is for the library that will purchase software licenses and books and materials. We had 2 items at 12%, or $20,000, one for Golden Spike Event Center to purchase an arena groomer, and the other for the garage to purchase a crane for the service truck. 9%, or $15,000, is for the roads department to purchase a new snowplow. As far as warrants, we issued 238 checks this week for $1.8 million. 39% of that amount, or $717,000, related to escrow releases for the Sundown condos and Taylor Landing. 16%, or $286,000, is for the jail. That was for building improvements and food. 8%, or $151,000, is for the library to purchase books and materials, software, and some building maintenance. And then 6%, or $107,000, is for the Golden Spike Event Center to purchase purchase a tractor and pay for utilities.
Thank you. Ricky, questions for Mr. Hatch? All right, let's move forward. G4, request for approval of business licenses. 5, request for approval of retirement agreement by and between Weber County and Jason Louder. 6, request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held on November 28th, 2023. 7, request for approval of request for removal of parcel 155333 from the Agricultural Protection APAA area. There was on your agenda the request for an additional tax ID number, but I understand that has been removed. Is that correct? Let's go to the next item, request for approval of a modification to an agreement by and between Weber County and the U.S. Forest Service to extend to March 31st, 2024, dealing with Pineview Reservoir. 9, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Summer Mountain Holding Group LLC to allow Powder Mountain at its own cost to remove snow from county roads outside of regular snow removal hours. 10, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Weber School District to rent facilities to host the annual STEM Fair. 11, a request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Acorn Productions to rent facilities to host their February Antique Show. 12, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Rocky Mountain Barrel Racing Association to hold the Dash for Dollars Barrel Race. 13, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Broken Heart Rodeo Company to hold the Bull Wars event. I believe that's New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve. 14, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and B&B All-Stars Band for entertainment services at the Hof German Fest, January 19th through the 20th, 2024. 15, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and the following for Deputy Sheriff Basic Training. The sheriff's with us. He can correct me on any of these names if he wishes. We have Joshua Mendoza, James Hines, Jordan Butterfield, Skylar Kestever, Christian Bills, Trevor Miller, Cutter Barkslow, Peyton Thomas, Alex Huntsman, Bidger Felter, Kylia Young, Western Briley, John Chaplin, and Dominic Hummel. 16, request for approval of a property release by and between Weber County and Logan Police Department from purchase of a K-9 from Logan Police Department to agree to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless the city of Logan from any and against any and all liabilities for that K-9. That's the consent items, Commissioners. Questions, comments? If not, I'd look for action on consent.
Make a motion to approve consent items G 1 through 16.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent items are approved as read and on the agenda with the one correction. Let's go to action items. H1, request for approval of a resolution, which would be 55-2023, appointing members to the Weber County Weed Control Board. Miss Stacy Skeen, who runs that board. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to present a resolution to appoint 3 members to the Weber County Weed Control Board. One would be a reappointment of Matt Marriott, and then the other 2 would be new appointments for Tim Kendall and Kelly Wainsgard. And all 3 of them would expire December 31st, 2027.
Okay, Commissioners, so those are the 3 appointments. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think you have that in front of you. Questions, comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion for Resolution 55-2023 to include Tim Kendall, Matt Marriott, and Kelly Wainsgard, the Weber County Weed Board.
Great.
Second.
And let me just mention, I think all these people, the 3 people have been contacted. They're willing to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much appreciate their willingness to serve. This is a board that's been instrumental in making sure that the problem we have with invasive weeds is starting to be looked at and curtailed somewhat.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion, I believe, and a second. All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, roll call.
Roll call vote.
Resolution.
Roll call vote for Resolution 55-2023. Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Ford?
Aye, motion carries. Let's go to request for approval of Resolution 56-2023, appointing members to the Weber County Tourism Tax Advisory Board. Stacy, you're still up.
All right. There are 3 members on this board who have been serving, and they would like to be reappointed. Jennifer Graham, Dakota Hyde, and Sarah Tolliver. And they would expire the end of December in 2026. However, Jennifer Graham may be retiring before then, so she's agreed to serve until she retires. So.
Great. Commissioner Harvey, this is in your portfolio.
This is, these people all know, and
Yep.
they're very familiar with tourism. It's really easy for me to make a motion if you're ready.
I'm ready.
I'll make that motion for 56-2023, appointing Jennifer Graham, Dakota Hyde, and Sarah Tolliver to the Weber County Tourism Tax Advisory Board, or the TTAB.
Great, thank you.
Second.
And a second, I'm going to place that motion. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote for Resolution 56-2023. Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Ford?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
you.
Thanks, Stacy. Now let's go to a request for approval of an addendum to the agreement by and between Weber County and Vital Corps Health Strategies LLC to provide inmate mental health services following the previous contractor's discontinuation of services. Chief Reese, welcome back.
Thank you. I would like to begin by giving thanks to Alpha Counseling and their staff for providing quality service to our inmate population over the years. Their care and guidance has been felt not only by our inmate population, but also by our staff members. The cost of malpractice insurance is atrocious and unfortunate, and so for financial reasons, Alpha Counseling is stepping away from the remainder of their contract. Thankfully, Vital Corps HS has agreed and been willing to hold their costs from their quote 18 months ago, and to honor that quote. So with the guidance of Mr. Horn with purchasing, our civil attorneys offering their words of wisdom, and Mr. Park in the comptroller's office being incredibly gracious and patient, we've presented to you a contract addendum to provide the incredibly important services of mental health for those vulnerable inmates in our custodial care. And with that, I would like to close by expressing my appreciation to the commissioners and your support of our sheriff's office.
Thank you, Chief Reese. Questions, comment? Commissioner Bolos, this is in your portfolio.
No comments. I'll make a motion to approve the addendum to the agreement by and between Weber County and Vital Corps Health Strategies.
Second.
And I'm going to place that motion after I say, so Vital Corps has been a great addition to your portfolio out there, hasn't it? From
Yes,
when we
sir.
did that a couple years ago?
Absolutely.
So you have full faith in their ability to perform?
I look forward to what they bring to the table, yes.
Great. Okay, I'm going to place that motion. No other discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Chief,
you.
for being with us. Let's now go to the request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of Weber County amending Title VI, Chapter 4 of the Weber County Code of Enforcement. We had with us Chief Perry's in the back, but he see that he sends Mr. Everett up. Chad, you're welcome.
He's a little scared.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he should be.
thank you, commissioners, for your time and your support for the animal control and for the animal shelter. Myself, in conjunction with Chief Perry with Weber County Sheriff's Department, as well as Weber County Attorney's Office with Liam Keel, I believe I said that right. Okay. We, as you know, we provide enforcement, animal control enforcement for the Weber County and its municipal cities within that county. From time to time, we have to address some of the Title Code 6. It's been around, and every now and then it needs to be updated. And then this really kind of stems from an unfortunate incident that occurred in Plain City in this summer, this year, where a gentleman unfortunately was attacked by two dangerous dogs. And when we were investigating that incident, reading the current code that it states now was kind of a little convoluted, kind of confusing for the officer who was investigating that. As we kind of went over it, we decided to revamp it, get rid of a couple of the sections, and kind of combine it into two new sections. As you know, the Weber County Animal Control Department provides animal control services for unincorporated areas of Weber County and for many municipalities within Weber County. Under Title VI, it's a comprehensive animal control of the Weber County Code of Ordinances. It was created to provide for comprehensive animal control regulations to govern the county, city, and protect life and property. Just real briefly, this section, it's basically, there was confusion on, under the code it says may or shall, and we wanted to get rid of the mays. We wanted to make them shalls. Under may, it gives, which is good, it gives discretion for the officer, but I think it gives too much discretion, and it kind of provides a little bit more confusion for that officer in investigating these types of violations of this ordinance. So essentially, this removes the potentially dangerous and dangerous animals from the definition of a nuisance animal and creates a separate ordinance for the abatement of dangerous animals. Also, the new ordinance for the abatement of dangerous animals contains shall language instead of may and does not allow for abatement by relocation. Currently, the statute says if an animal is deemed dangerous under the definition of a dangerous animal, and I can read that to you if you like. It's for clarification.
I think we're pretty familiar with it, unless, I think we're good.
Okay. And then I won't read that, but under that definition, if an animal attacks someone either seriously or causes death, that animal it currently states it may be taken or shall be taken. So there's a little bit of discrepancy there. And then under this certain circumstance, fortunately, this doesn't occur all the time. The county's growing, population is increasing, and with that population comes more animal owners. And with that comes the potential of dogs being aggressive. So we have to increase and revise sometimes these laws and these ordinances. So with this, basically, essentially, it creates the dangerous animal, attention dangerous animal into two separate sections, under section 6-4-14 and under section 6-4-15. Under those two sections, potentially 6-4-14 is under potentially dangerous, gives the officer or animal control division the authority to may relocate the animal or euthanize. It's one step lower than dangerous animal. Dangerous animal is one step higher, obviously, for if it causes serious bodily injury or death. Under that section, the may will be removed. It'll be a shall impound that animal pending euthanasia. And the only way we would do the euthanasia is by the written consent of the animal owner. If the animal owner refuses to euthanize that animal, then it will go through the court jurisdiction. The court system at that point will decide whether that animal should be euthanized or what needs to be done for the outcome of that animal. Do you have any questions at this time?
Questions for Chad?
No.
So Chad, I just say thank you, Chief Perry, for looking at this ordinance. We've been, again, advised of this in a work session. It's great work. The two most discussed words I ever had in the legislature were discussed with shall or may. In this particular case, in order to put the teeth in this, excuse kind of the reference to your animal shelter, but this needs to be shall.
Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So with that, Commissioner Bolos, this is in your portfolio.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance of Weber County amending Title 6, Chapter 4 of the Weber County Code of Ordinances.
First reading.
I second that wholeheartedly.
Okay, no more discussion. I'll place the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Chad.
you.
Let's go to our next agenda item, request for approval of ordinance, which would be 2023-40, amending fees at the Golden Spike Event Center. Mr. Duncan Olson.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is the second reading. We double-checked everything, went through our side. We feel really good about where we're at. We didn't really make any changes to the existing stuff. You also noticed that there was a bunch of contracts that went earlier in this meeting. A lot of them, like Acorn Antiques, it was because the lattice wasn't in the fee ordinance, and so that's why several of those contracts, just fee ordinance stuff was there. I think we've corrected most of that and should be good.
Great.
Commissioner Harvey, questions?
No, we went through this a week or two ago, and this is the second reading, isn't it?
Correct.
Second reading, so would you like to make a motion?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make that motion that we approve ordinance 2023-40, amending the fees for the Golden Spike Event Center.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote for ordinance 2023-40. Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Floor?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Duncan. Let's go to our next agenda item, which would be request for final approval of Anselmi Acres subdivision Phase 1, consisting of 33 lots located at approximately 4100 West, 1400 South in Weber County. Mr. Steve Burton, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've got a request for final subdivision approval. This is the last formal approval for this specific phase. It's called Anselmi Acres Phase 1. I believe you're all pretty familiar with the project. There was a rezone earlier this year that was approved. There was another rezone that was approved just a few weeks ago that granted R115 density to this specific property, but also some adjacent property. In August of this year, the Western Weber Planning Commission made a recommendation that you grant final approval of the project, provided they comply with the 3 conditions that were listed there in your staff report. Those conditions are really just based on either the development agreement that applies or the county code. For example, the developer is going to be required to make a donation of $2,000 per lot before the subdivision plat records. That's part of the development agreement. Another condition is that the applicant provide a cost estimate for all public infrastructure. And the applicant is working on that. The final condition from the Planning Commission was that the applicant provide an unconditional approval letter from the water providers, so both culinary and secondary water. Now, I will say we usually like to bring this to you as staff when all these conditions have been met. The applicant has requested that I bring it to you anyway, and that you could potentially, if you'd like, you could grant a conditional approval. The subdivision ordinance does allow that. It says, I'll just quote what it says, after determining compliance with applicable ordinances or determining compliance after adding conditions of approval to ensure compliance with applicable laws, the land use authority shall approve the final plat. So again, we like to bring it to you when we've got the Mylar, when we've got the financial guarantee, but the subdivision code does say that you can grant a conditional approval. We've done it in the past. It's not something that we're unfamiliar with. What we'll do if you do decide to grant final subdivision approval is we'll make sure that no plats are recorded until all those conditions are met. To give you just a rundown of the subdivision, it's 33 lots. It complies with the lot layout of the development agreement. The developer is going to be installing a pathway along the north side of 1600 South Street that they're going to be building through the development. The lot sizes range in size from about 9,000 square feet to 16,000 square feet, and it'll be a single-family subdivision. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Steve. Questions for Mr. Burton? All right, so I'd entertain action on this item.
I'll make a motion to give final approval of Anselmi Acres subdivision phase 1.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, let's go to our next agenda item, which is request for approval of a development agreement by and between Weber County and Eden Crossing LLC for the Eden Crossing development in Newtown, Eden area. Mr. Charlie Ewert, you're up.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Welcome.
I'm going to share my screen here. Got a little presentation for you. Let's see. Okay, so 2 weeks ago you guys approved on a 2-to-1 vote a rezone for this particular project, but you made it conditioned on a development agreement being mutually negotiated between the applicant and the county. So we've been working over the last 2 weeks to provide for that. We took what Commissioner Harvey's concerns were as he made the motion and wrote it into a development agreement, and then also met with each of you guys just to make sure that we're accommodating for all the concerns that may be in need of being addressed. So a few things to take note of. Here's the Eden Crossing property. It's the dark piece right here. We're next to, here's the Maverick and here's the grocery store, just to get your bearings if you're already not super familiar with this. Discussion about transferable development rights. The ordinance allows transferable development rights as a right, and so once you get the form-based zone, you can, by right, transfer development rights from other properties into your development. All it is just come to the planning office, prove that you have those rights on those other properties, and show us how they're being transferred. It's just a transfer document that we record to both properties so we can track it. The applicant has suggested that they have development rights in some of their other projects that they've already done and are in progress of working on. And so I'll walk you through each of those items here. So we've got Legacy Mountain Estates right here. We've got Osprey Phase 1 here, Osprey Phase 2, and we've got 2 out parcels that are by it. And I'll blow that up on a development by development basis. So this is Legacy Mountain Estates. The applicant has installed 51% of the development rights that they could have otherwise gotten out of that project. This isn't 50, so they've constructed 48 lots out of a possible 94.
They didn't plat all 94 lots. In fact, that'd be the opposite of what our TDR ordinance is trying to do. It's trying to prevent or encourage landowners from platting every single lot that they could possibly plat. But under the PRUD and the cluster subdivision code, they could have gotten 94 lots out of this, and they chose to do 48 in anticipation of being able to transfer at some point. When they platted this, the transfer ordinance still wasn't finished, and they didn't have a place to send the transfers to. So the applicant actually deed restricted each of the lots through their covenants to say that nobody inside of the subdivision can redivide their lots in anticipation that they'll be moving those transfers to another property. Here's Osprey Ranch Phase 1, same deal. They've got covenants recorded to the properties. The applicant owns most of the properties in here, as he does most of the properties in Legacy, but Legacy does have a few more other private landowners in it. And so you can see here the applicant has only platted 32% of the allowable density on that hillside, so 31 lots of a possible 94. It's very obvious that there is a road that goes up and over the mountain right there. You could see that from anywhere in the valley. However, when the buildings start going up in there, you're going to see much less than you would have otherwise seen, 60-something lots less than you would have otherwise seen pocked over that mountainside. So 32% of the allowed density is being used in Osprey Phase 1, and same with Osprey Phase 2. Now, Osprey Phase 2 hasn't been platted yet. There is a preliminary plat that's been tentatively approved by the Planning Commission, but they haven't come in for final platting of Osprey. But you can see here they could have gotten 91 lots out of that, and they're only platting 30. This one's a little bit easier than the other two subdivisions because it's just a parcel right now. It's actually 3 parcels that they're going to merge into one, where we can say on this parcel they have the right to plat 91 lots. We'll be removing, what is that, 30-some, 40, 50-something lots off of it. And then when they come in with their final plat, we'll have that deed restriction on the property. And so if they were to try and plat more than 30 lots, we'd say, sorry, you don't have more than 30, according to this document that was recorded to the property. 2 out parcels, so a little piece right here, the possible of 2 building lots on it. They're planning on sending 1 development right from this parcel and building 1 on it. It buffers Osprey. And this is the Osprey Road for Phase 2 right here, so you can kind of see how that works out. And then there's a property down by Highway 158 that they've got the potential of building 3 lots. It's a 9-acre property in the 3-acre zone. And they're planning on putting a deed restriction to retire all of them. So you'll have 0 lots on that 9-acre parcel in exchange for those 3 going into the property. So I wanted to make sure I pointed this out, not just because the applicant is working on doing TDRs, but because there's an assertion that maybe TDRs are broken, and they're not. They're doing exactly what they're designed to do. You can see that in practice. We've got a developer who is willing to develop less on the mountainside in exchange for moving them into a village area. And a developer obviously has accepted the risk of timing not being on his side, since he doesn't already have the form-based zone. But that's the subject of the conversation today. Here's the receiving area. So the receiving area, the acreage that is there divided by 3, 1 unit per 3 acres, is 6. And so if they wanted to build right now on that property in the AV3 zone, they could put 6 dwelling units on that property divided up. Out of all of those other parcels or those other subdivisions or developments that the applicant has done, they want to move a total of 174, and that's just adding up the math that was on the previous slides, from those parcels into this parcel here, which gives them a total of 181 dwelling units. Now, it doesn't include commercial space. It doesn't include hotel units. I know that was a question that some of the members of the public had. Is this including hotel units? And it's not. These are dwelling units. The applicant has asked for the ability to get 350 total, but right off the bat, they'll be coming in with 181 with these transfers. So even if we didn't know these transfers existed with this development agreement, if the applicant got the form-based zone, This is exactly how we do the math on those particular properties. Now, in this case, we're doing it through a development agreement because if the applicant came in today asking about those subdivisions, we'd have to do it on a lot-by-lot basis. And so we're in agreement with the applicant that we'll look at it as a contiguous calculation for each of those subdivisions, for the 2 subdivisions that have already been platted. But moving forward, when the applicant wants to transfer development rights into this project, if he chooses to do more than 181 units, they will need to do the same thing. That the parcel they're moving it from, how many units are assigned to that parcel, given existing zoning, and then record a document saying we're moving this number of units from that parcel into this property here, record a document to both properties, and that's how we'll track it. We'll also, with each of those documents, map them, so you'll find them on GeoGizmo as soon as they are done. And so if the applicant does do the 350 total, then he'll have to move 169 units from somewhere else. And we don't know yet where. We just know that everywhere outside of the form-based zone is a sending area, and everywhere inside the form-based zone is a receiving area. And so, and you can only get as many development rights on any given piece of property based on what the street regulating plan says you can do. So it's not an unlimited amount. You're limited by height, you're limited by width, lot size, property width, all that kind of stuff.
Mr. Chair, may I interrupt Charlie's
Question, yeah. Go ahead,
presentation?
Commissioner Harvey.
So on that, so if a developer wanted to take density off the face of a mountain, maybe we talk about where can those, and we've talked about this time and time again, but I'm trying to help those here and online. If they wanted to take some off of some Wolf Creek Canyon, or if they wanted to take some off of another place that's how does that work? Where's the line? I know it's not probably in your presentation here. Can you just take those development rights from anywhere and put them in a receiving zone, or do they have to be in specific areas, Charlie?
They have to be in specific areas. So
What
Wolf
does that
Creek,
mean?
or Wolf Canyon, that's up in the F40 zone. If somebody wanted to transfer out of there down into here, the F40 zone is not a transfer sending area. So you got the AV3 zone, you got the FV3 zone. I don't recall whether or not the F5 zone was a sending area. If it's not, we may want to reconsider that because there's a lot of that bench that is developable under the F5 zone. And then all of the smaller zones are also, so all of the Wolf Creek area and all of the
So just to
individual
reinforce what I'm remembering, there are what we know about, there are receiving areas, but there's also
Sending areas.
Sending areas
That's
as
right.
well, and you can't, if that piece of property is not in a sending area, it can't go anywhere.
Correct.
It can't go into this place, it can't go into another place that's got 40 acres, and they need, it has to be in a sending area in that valley to be able to move it to a receiving area.
That's right.
One of the 7 receiving areas across the whole floor, and only in those receiving areas, correct?
Only in the form-based zone. So even in those receiving areas, if there isn't a form-based zone applied to those receiving areas yet, you still wouldn't be able to do it. But once you get the form-based zone applied, then you can.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you for entertaining that question, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Charlie.
Great question. Public consideration, some of the things that I know that Commissioner Harvey, you mentioned in your motion, and commissioners, as we've been working with you guys to put this development agreement together, you guys have brought it up. So the applicant is willing to put $2 million towards a roundabout at the Eden four-way intersection, right here. We know that UDOT is going to put a slice of their pie, their money into it, and if we have any deficiencies, we've got some impact fees that we could potentially use. The point is that this roundabout, which is going to be needed to accommodate all the increased traffic, not just from this development, but from others, won't fall on the backs of taxpayers, and that's an important consideration. Let development pay for development, not existing landowners. The applicant has agreed to using that entire area in between the 2 streets at the front of their property along Highway 166 as a public plaza. It's about an acre and some change, acre and a quarter, acre and a half-ish or so. And they're willing to create a public plaza. You could see the design of it. It's in the development agreement as the second to last exhibit, if you want to see a bigger picture of it. But we're talking about providing shade canopy, providing pedestrian cross accessibility. There's a small amphitheater with an amphitheater viewing area, and possibly just small single-story concession buildings with mid-block crossing in there. The applicant has agreed to some changes to height. I believe a member of the public mentioned that that the development agreement might not go hand in hand with the form-based zone when it comes to height, and that's accurate. It's not accurate that it isn't in compliance with. Development agreement can apply additional or different restrictions to a property than what the zone says. So this is where you get to work with the developer to try to provide some flexibility. The developer has agreed to the first 100 feet being no more than a single story tall, or 25 feet total. So and 25 feet total. So we're talking about the pitch of the roof can't go over that 25-foot threshold. From 100 feet to 200 feet away from Highway 166, 2 stories and 40 feet. And then behind that behind 300 feet, that's where you'll get 3 stories or 50 feet. And when we did the math on this, just to be clear, the form-based zone requires a first story of at least 15 feet, and then you've got at least a 1-foot floor. And then you've got your next story. So if you do your next story at 11 feet and the next story at 11 feet, you're looking at least 40 feet just in that. And so you're going to have to do a flat building if you have 3 stories. And so I think when we changed the code to go down to 40 feet, it might have been a little bit nearsighted if we were looking at areas that have pitched roofs. And so either we're going to force flat roofs everywhere in order for an applicant to get 3 stories, or we're going to have some consideration for the pitches of roofs, which the development agreement does that after 300 feet away from 166. The developer has agreed to construct the hotel at least 300 feet away from 166. A lot of this is to protect the landowners who are right across the street, give them a public plaza and a little bit of buffer between their properties and the more intense uses that will go on in this property, in this development. We've looked at hotel parking, and the development agreement says that the parking has to be on site, and it has to be sufficient for that hotel. And then the developer is going to give accommodations for the on-site irrigation facilities. There's a concern that I think has been emailed to you guys on, I don't know if it's the Lindsay Ditch or one of the facilities that's there. And I was talking to the developer, and they mentioned that they've already started the discussions with that ditch company to possibly pipe it. And the developers also agreed to provide 2 acres of open space total. So you have the plaza as part of it, and then somewhere else in the development, they'll provide the 2 acres of open space. So for you guys' consideration, not to belabor the point, you've got 3 options here. You can approve, you can reject, or you can table. If you table, we just ask that you do so with specificity so that we know what to do in our next steps. Any questions for me?
Does that conclude your presentation, Charlie?
That does.
So, yeah, I've got a couple questions, if I might.
Please.
So, I think you mentioned, correct my math if I'm wrong, that it's 181 units being transferred.
174 being transferred, and then 6 already on the property.
Okay, so 174, okay. So, of those 174, we've had some communication in the valley that none of those not very many of those 174 units could ever be built because it was on both of those developments around Hillside. Is that in fact true or not true?
Not true. So any one of those lots could be redivided if they're big enough.
Okay.
And so you could put a number of homes on the existing lots that are right there on that hillside. Our cluster subdivision code allows you to do as small as 9,000 square foot lots. Doesn't mean you get to do more lots than the base zone would allow you to do. So in each of those subdivisions, you could only get whatever, like 91 or something like that for most of them. You could only get 91 lots on there, but you could put them close to each other along the existing road that the applicant has already built. So no, it's not true.
Okay.
They could definitely get that density in there.
So in fact, those are transferable development rights.
Those are.
Legally set by the state. We've recognized those under current zone. Yep. So basically, you could have 174 additional units on those hillsides. Some of those served by septic tanks and not sewer. Is that?
Yep, some of them. So if you have too small of acreage, the health department will require you to either be on a sewer system or at least on a shared
Right.
system of some sort. But we've got shared systems in the valley. Crimson is on a shared system.
Okay.
There are a few others I could name, but
Got it. Okay, so
It's possible.
you made the comment, and I think it's also been said, what I'd consider to be misinformation, that the TDR ordinance is not in fact working. This shows me that it is in fact working because we're taking development off hillsides, what I would call critical infrastructure, with potential nitrate infiltration into Pine View Reservoir, and putting that into an area that has a defined and soon-to-be functioning sewer system.
that's right. And that's exactly what the general plan recommends occur.
Okay.
So you're absolutely right. One of the things about the TDR program that I think some are concerned about is it's not doing what some are expecting, which is to save agricultural land. And that's not necessarily what the general plan says to do. When we were working on the general plan, I did ask the public through a online survey, what is it that's important to them about open space? Is it saving agricultural land, or is saving agricultural land about saving open space? And it was the latter. It was open space, not ag land. That doesn't mean that ag isn't important. It's very important. But it just means that the people who responded to that question said that it doesn't matter what kind of open space it is. Open space is important. Second to ag land, and ag land just happens to hold open space open. And so with that in mind, it's not preserving those ag lands. And the reason for that is because ag lands are productive land. Number one, they're productive land, and so the owner has a revenue stream that comes to them on an annual basis. Number two, ag land is easier to develop because it's flat and usually closer to a street, right? And so the economic ability for an agricultural piece of property to develop is a lot higher, which means the price tag to buy either the development or to buy a development right off of it is a lot higher as well. Whereas you get up into these hillsides and it's just a little bit less economical to access them. And so the price tag of a TDR is going to go down. In this particular, for those hillsides. In time, because we have a scarcity on the market, we are not approving any more new residential dwelling unit rights in the valley according to our general plan. That drives a scarcity, which just drives all the prices to this commodity up, commodity being development rights. And so those hillsides will, at one point in time, the market will tip, if it hasn't already tipped, to say those hillsides are economically feasible to develop. We've got 2, and soon to be 3 developments on those hillsides now that show us that they are economically feasible to develop. And so it's hard to say that the hillsides can't be developed, or that the TDR ordinance shouldn't be protecting those hillsides. They should be, and I think it is doing that. The fact that the developer owns the properties where those transfers are happening or once owned them is beside the point. He's not exchanging money with himself, but if you could see that happen and you could see what that bottom line looks like, that's what the price of a development right would be.
Good. And so, just to be clear, so he's approved up to 350 units, but right now you've only approved, because of the TDRs, 181 of those units.
That's right.
So in order to get,
And sorry, my math didn't look like it was working out. I think I slipped my finger. It's 180, not 181.
okay, 180?
174 plus 6.
Okay. So in order to make up that differential, he will have to go out, the developer or someone will have to go out and purchase those TDRs
That's right.
from another, as Commissioner Harvey, a legal area that's allowed to transfer in, a sending area.
That's right.
Which would typically now be the valley floor. And, you know, I've heard from a lot of small farmers, I being one of those, that would like the opportunity to preserve those farms.
That's right.
And rather than turn those into so many homes or condominiums, whatever it may be, let's keep those farms operating, or let's keep that open space, whether open space or farms, and give the ability to transfer those, but at the same time, make sure that the generations that will inherit those farms have the incentive not to sell it, not to develop it.
That's right.
And that's really the, my understanding, really the reasoning behind the general plan and the TDR ordinance as dictated by the state.
That's exactly right.
Okay. All right, that ends my questions. Commissioners, questions?
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Well, a couple comments too. First of all, I really appreciate the TDR ordinance and the fact that TDRs can be transferred to any form-based zone from any non-form-based zone, correct?
Any form-based zone, from any non-form-based zone, except for the bigger zones that go up on the mountainside. So
Okay.
the F10, F40 zones,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to transfer
Right.
from those.
Which, at least to me, appears to be a way that landowners can preserve their own land, right? By selling those TDRs. And I get that this is, we're right on the surface of this, and we're gonna see it develop out more, but I think the further into the development of the valley we go, the more we'll appreciate what this is doing for the preservation of open space. I mean, it's a much larger scale, but I mentioned before, we've done similar projects to this in West Haven to preserve open space. And I think it's, in keeping with property rights, it's really the best way to leave those areas that people would like to see. So I think it's hard at the beginning of something to see what it's going to look like years down the road, but I think we're on the right track. I still have issues with the roundabout, and I know you've got a lot of input from the community, and most people prefer the roundabout to the light. But I know they're not as safe as an intersection, and I just don't know what the answer is there, because I want it to be a safe place, especially because it's so pedestrian-oriented. I don't know the answer to that.
I share that concern with you. I don't think a roundabout is very conducive to pedestrian uses, just by the nature of a roundabout. It's a free flow of cars, and it doesn't help if you've got a desire for a free flow of pedestrians. I was just talking to the county engineer. He's got the same concern. In fact, he just came back from vacation and found a bunch of this stuff had happened all over the last week, and thought, shoot, should I just run up to the commission office and say, don't do a roundabout? So he did express some concerns about the same. I don't know that the development agreement does not obligate us to install a roundabout. It obligates the developer to help us install a roundabout if we choose to do so. And so we could always, at some point in time, either amend the agreement or just work with a developer to do a different kind of intersection if you ever choose to do so. Our engineer just got off the phone with a colleague of his who he respects a great deal in transportation planning. And apparently there are ways to do roundabouts, if they're done right, where you could enhance pedestrian safety. I'd be curious to see how that fits into the context of a village center. But I think that's one of the first things that we should do is jump right to that study. And he mentioned it'd be just a couple $1,000 to do a study to find out if that is the best option here. And we can use the applicant's donated funds to do that if we wanted to, or we could use impact fees if we wanted to do that study immediately just to find out if it's worthwhile.
Okay, where the development agreement doesn't obligate us to that, but we're still getting support from the developer, I'm okay to move forward, but I think Charlie, that I want to keep having that conversation. And I feel like the overwhelming preference for the public, at least in the immediate vicinity, is for a roundabout just because of the appearance, but I just want to make sure that we talk about the safety component. The other one that I have issue with, and we talked about this too, is the 50-foot height. I don't want to see a flat roof really on a 3-story hotel. Unless there's a roof restaurant or something cool like that. But I just think it really limits the type of hotel that we can have there. And I don't want to see a cheap hotel there. Yeah. I mean, I understand the development agreement can say 50 feet, even though that goes against the general plan. But I hate to see a 2-story hotel. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I think I do know what that looks like, actually.
It's a Howard Johnson.
That's my point. Anyway, those are my comments. I think you addressed the other ones that were mentioned in the public comments. If not, then I'll come back. Go ahead.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you. I certainly hope that online Ms. Sanger is still there. I want to just personally apologize. My remarks on the 5th of December were no way. I didn't mean them to be condescending. If my ability to communicate is is not good. I need to still work on that because they just were my efforts of trying to communicate what we've learned. And it's always a learning process through this. So for her or anyone else that found them to be offensive, I genuinely apologize for that. I know this is a frustrating process, and having gone through it 30 years ago around my own home, I'm trying to protect how I felt. I'm trying to put myself in the place of those up there now based on how I felt before, and then also based on the law, what I've learned since then, to make it so that others aren't having to feel the way I did back then. I appreciate the comments today. I really appreciated Ms. Matheson's questions, and I want to make sure that they're answered. We may not be able to answer all these, but does this waive the right for the applicant to be annexed into the city, providing, it wasn't our intent. Look, our purpose wasn't to say yes to or force a city. Our purpose here wasn't to create a civil war. Our purpose wasn't to create a lack of public trust, but our purpose was also not to shut the gate. And so what about that? Can you answer that question about the annexation?
Yeah, there is a provision in the agreement. Let's find that. It's in section 5, paragraph 5.2. So first off, going to 5.1, annexation. The applicant is agreeing to not protest any kind of annexation, whether it's by a city or by a district. But then 5.2, if citizens elect to incorporate the property into a municipality, master developer may elect, to the full extent allowed by law, to be excluded from the incorporation. So one thing I know about incorporating is that the state frowns on creating unincorporated islands. It used to be prohibited. It's been changed recently, I believe, where it could be permitted with your consent, but it's got to be a pretty extreme circumstance for that to happen. So the applicant could potentially get a bunch of other people between his property and the border of where that municipality is proposed to all go in together on a protest, and that might be viewed favorably by the Lieutenant Governor's office.
Or creating a peninsula.
But in that case, they'd be creating an unincorporated peninsula.
I don't like, we're working hard as a commission to eliminate islands in Weber County, so I'm not for islands. So I wanted to, also let's talk about the roundabout. And boy, you brought up, Commissioner, you brought up a great point. And she brought up she was very communicated very well about the safety. I love roundabouts, but now as I got to thinking about it more, you know, what roundabouts work, and I have been in places where they stop all directions of roundabouts with a way to stop them so transfer people can go freely. But having people, kids especially, but people be able to cross in this community center would be critical for me. I know it's been with an exclamation point, we don't want a light up there. And I certainly, if they don't want to light, the only other way to make sure this is responsible is to do something. But I'm not an engineer for traffic, but having a good traffic plan is critical. And I know that because this comes at UDOT's, I want to make sure that that happens, Charlie. And so that's important.
Great.
We talked about TDRs, STRs. Just will you explain again about STRs, how they work,
Yeah.
Charlie? And I want to be specific. If a hotel goes up there, do you know the size of the hotel, or is it going to be 1,000 rooms? Is it going to be 10 rooms? What is it exactly going to be?
We don't know the size. We know how high it can be, and we know how much of the property it can take and where it can sit on the frontage. And so as far as size goes, we also know the design, what it should look like, at least the general design features.
Would it have a flat roof or a pitched roof?
That'll be a pitched roof. Yeah, so the agreement as well as the code itself suggests flat roofs in some circumstances. The agreement says if it is a flat roof, it should be usable space, so it's not just a flat roof, it's actually, you can get some use out of it. But the whole point of going up to the 50 feet is to allow for that pitch to occur.
Okay, so let's go back to the STRs. I don't want to, I want to make sure we cover that. So what we talked about, you know, I didn't want the whole subdivision up there to be all STRs, short-term rentals. I know that the hotel is excluded from that, so the other buildings that would be up there, I would like to see 75% of them some kind of an owner-occupied type of unit and not be allowed to be an STR. Whereas in some places, the whole community, the whole thing could be a hotel and then everything else is STRs. No, I'd like to see those be specifically for, so if young families or first responders or school teachers or in the service industry, they have a chance to build wealth by having ownership of something. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so two different components there. Happy to talk about both. Looking at the plaza, you could see the street that's on the west side and the street that's on the east side, and then the plaza in the middle. One of the things that the plaza...
Can you go back to that slide, if you wouldn't mind putting
Sorry
that
about
back
that.
up? Huh?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
There
While
we go.
you're talking, that'd be good.
There we
So
go.
those online or some later would be able to hear or see that. Thank you.
Perfect. So you got the road on the west side of the plaza, and then you got the road on the east side of the plaza. The plaza was not originally proposed by the developer. It's a concession the developer is making. I believe the developer had some expectation beforehand to do some commercial and multifamily type of buildings in these areas where they could have gotten STRs. So let's look at the street regulating plan really quickly before I answer your question fully. That plaza is kind of in this triangle right here with that road on the east side, this road on the west side. The property boundary of the developer's property is right here. You can see, you can see where my mouse is kind of up and down. So this road essentially lines up with the property boundary. That means that the developer doesn't get any frontage on this side of this road here. And because there's a plaza, they don't have any frontage, building frontage on this side. And so the only frontage they have along this red mixed-use commercial line is right here where they're planning on putting the hotel. It's the only space they can put the hotel. And so that's really the only spot that you could put short-term rentals right up on this side here, where their hotel is going to go. The reason I'm saying that is because I don't think there's anywhere on this property with a plaza, if there is a plaza and a hotel, that short-term rentals can be located, unless they're going to happen inside of the hotel in some way.
That would be based on hotel modeling.
Yep. That being said, if they were to squeeze a building into here somehow that has some apartments or condos or townhomes or whatever it is in it, they could potentially get some STRs out of it, but the development agreement is written to say they can only get 25% of what they otherwise would be allowed to. And what they otherwise would be allowed to is whatever amount of units they can actually fit right here. So let's say they fit, miraculously they fit 10 units. Well, they could do 2 STRs. That's the math. So yeah, we can track that, we can account for that. We also, in the development agreement, obligated them to have one management company, the same management company that manages the landowners association, the master association, be the manager of those STRs. That way it's easier for us to work with that management company in tracking.
Commissioner, sorry to belabor my comments, but how will they be managed again or enforced? Will we use the enforcement that we've already had some success with moving since then, right?
That's right. So we've got a third-party agency, and we're actually looking right now to switch to a different third-party agency that can do it even better than the previous one was doing. This agency helps us to track, both by sending out crawlers throughout the internet to figure out where all those advertised short-term rentals are. They help us track the rate at which they're being advertised for, their location, and also they help us get them licensed and into compliance.
Another question I have, I've just got a couple more. Impact fees, how are those? Can you explain that so the public can know that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're talking about the developer putting a $2 million startup into the roundabout or whatever that may end up being. I've heard folks say, well, he's getting paid back for that, and that may be true for a portion of it. The development agreement does not allow him to be paid back for his proportionate share impact of that development agreement. So if we've got 1,000 cars going through that roundabout and 200 of them, 250 of them are related to his project, then he's responsible for 25% of the cost of that roundabout. Where he's fronting most of it, some of that can be paid back through future impact fees and other developers who are looking to do the same. And so through his project itself, in the development agreement, we've agreed to give him a reimbursement on 100% of the impact fees that he pays out of his project, which makes sense because it's 100% of his project is going to be impacting that intersection, right? And so he puts the money into it. That's a part of his proportionate share. Above and beyond that proportionate share, other developers and other developments that are coming in, they'll be creating an impact on that intersection as well.
And then
so the impact fees for those can help pay this development.
I got that. The other thing too is I'm a property rights guy, but I'm also a water rights guy. So I know there's been some questions about the canal going through there, Charlie. I want to just make sure that those associated with that canal company, ditch company, whatever the official name is, that I want to make sure that they're protected.
Yeah. We've already got ordinances in place to protect them, but to make sure it was doubly clear that we do want to protect them, it's also in the development agreement that the applicant will work in good faith and earnest with the canal company or the ditch company to provide whatever facilities are needed for that ditch to run and operate successfully while this development happens over top of it.
Thank you, Charlie. That concludes my questions for right now.
Okay, Commissioner Bolos?
One more question. In the development agreement, it talks about 2 acres of property reserved for public plaza, open space, green space. No less than 1 acre will be constructed into a plaza. When you were doing your presentation, your PowerPoint, you made it sound like there was an additional 2 acres to the plaza.
2 acres total. Plaza, sorry if I misspoke. It's 2 acres total, including the plaza.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. I think that's it.
Yep, okay, well, whatever. So just a couple of clarifying questions. We talked about the roundabout and that we're not obligated to put a roundabout, even though I've heard for as many years as I can remember that many people in the valley dislike the idea of any type of stoplight. And I've heard a number of times, don't ever approve a stoplight in the valley. But this gives us the opportunity not to do a roundabout if we have a citizens group that put together. I believe that the developers already reached out to people to be part of that planning process. If it's not a roundabout, what is it? And then we have the ability to use those funds to put in whatever that may be that the community decides on. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, the agreement says that we'll use the funds for a roundabout, but I think a four-way intersection is actually cheaper than a roundabout, and so I don't see why the applicant would choose to do the roundabout if we give them a different option, a cheaper option.
But I agree, you know, that's a fairly will become busier as development takes place. Pedestrian traffic, bike traffic becomes pretty critical in that circle right there, so it needs to be addressed and whatever that works. But again, I spend a little time in St. George whenever I get away from here. There's a number of roundabouts in St. George, Ivan, Santa Clara that work very well with as much or a lot more traffic than we see in here. But they address it over there, and because of the community and how that bike traffic, St. George, by the way, is probably one of the most bike-friendly areas that you'll see. And I would hope that we could maintain that bike-friendly, walker-friendly, runner-friendly atmosphere in the valley. That's, I think, what makes it unique. The last comment, dealing with incorporation. Bottom line, that's state law. I mean, let's be realistic here. State sets that. The LG's office states that. Regardless of what we have in the contract, right now, state law, the LG's office would not allow that to be create an island, or so if incorporation takes place. Now, if the law changes before and if that happens, obviously, regardless of what we put in the contract, he has the right under state law to address it.
Yeah.
But putting that in a contract in our development agreement is going to really make no difference, because we're a political subdivision of the state. I might remind a number of the people that think otherwise. State law dictates incorporation along with a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's why the development agreement says to the full extent allowed
Yeah.
by law.
Yeah.
You got it.
So unless the law changes, which right now it doesn't, because I'm very familiar with that statute, it becomes incorporated unless state law changes.
Right.
So I don't think a lot of people, and again, let's not pass out misinformation that they can let themselves out of any incorporation. That's up to the state. That's not in the development agreement, doesn't allow it, the state law will dictate. So I want to make sure that's not miscommunicated by those people that are following us. Okay, commissioners, any other questions?
I know I'm beating this up, but it's back to the roundabout. And the Newtown Eden area, that circle around the intersection, we can't forget, includes the southwest side, the northwest side.
Yep.
Just the thought. People, I mean, this is the first of what's happening in Newtown, big thing. I mean, there are businesses there now, but the first big development in Newtown, and others will follow, and people will want to get across the street to that.
One of a cool spot that I've been in the country is I've had the opportunity to drive down Highway 1 in California. And you're in these rural areas that then slowly get a little bit more populated, and then you get a small center of town. Not a big center of town, just a small center of town. And on Highway 1, I don't know if it's these communities that have done it or the state of California, they've done the four-way signalized intersection, but one cycle is just for pedestrians, and they're allowed to go in any direction, cross at an angle, cross at the crosswalks these ways. So they've actually painted diagonal crosswalks across intersections as well, which those are far more pedestrian friendly to do it that way, and it gives everyone the chance to move without fear of having those vehicles in their way.
Yeah, I think if you look at St. George plans on a lot of their roundabouts, they have exactly the same thing.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's just going to come about from public, but I think that most people would agree, stoplights aren't the way to go. We need to make it user-friendly, biker-friendly,
Yeah.
and obviously pedestrian-friendly.
Yep.
To me, those are the key components.
Yeah, and I think we can do all of those.
So I think we could do it. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Mr. Chair, are you ready to accept a motion?
I am ready.
Motion.
Actually, I'm past ready, but go ahead.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve,
Second.
and we have a second. All right. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to place that motion. All those in favor of approving the development agreement by and between Weber County and Eden Crossing LLC for the Eden Crossing Development in Newtown Eden area as presented by Mr. Ewert, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. Unanimous. Thank you, Charlie, for those. Appreciate those in the audience. Again, I would just tell people, get involved with this. Please don't miscommunicate. Let's use the facts. Let's not try to divide or make this community any more divisive than it is. The developers has said on a number of occasions he's willing to receive input. He's willing to have people get involved with this process. I would suggest that it's time for the community to come together. That's the community I grew up in, and I would hope that those people that have moved in the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years would probably cooperate with that in mind, that we can have a great community and work together. So with that, commissioners, I'm going to go to a public hearing. If I could get a motion to adjourn that public meeting and reconvene as a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now in a public hearing for discussion of possible action on a request for approval of a zoning map amendment and development agreement to rezone 19.43 acres of property located approximately 5900 West, 900 South, Ogden, from A2 Agricultural to MT Manufacturing and Technology, known as the Black Pine Hancock property. Mr. Bill Kobeck.
Merry Christmas, Commissioners. Thank you for
Merry
your
Christmas.
time. Thank you for your getting through these items. I appreciate it. It's been a long one.
Close.
This is a rezone request for about 20 acres of property. It's adjacent to the property that was about a year ago rezoned to M&T, also known as the Promontory Commerce Center or Black Pine Development. This is simply an addition on to that. The development agreement that's a part of this as well is mostly an amendment to the development agreement. You had that in front of you. It harkens back to and addresses points in the previously approved development agreement as part of this larger development, and adds a provision, in particular, specific provision that would allow for dedication of land for a fire station out in this area. And so we're looking forward to that, and the fire department, the fire district is excited about that. With that, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item last week and voted to approve or recommend approval by the County Commission of this item. So that's what we got.
And do we have the staff recommendation as well?
The staff recommends approval as well.
Great, thank you. All right, questions, commissioners, for Mr. Kobabe?
None.
No questions? All right, no questions. But we've been through this on a number of different occasions, so I
Yes,
don't
sir,
think
we
this
have.
is news to us.
Yep.
Let's go to public comment. Anyone in the audience would like to come forward? To see the Black Pine folks on the back. Daniel, any of your group want to talk? Been very patient. All right. Anyone online that would like to address the Black Pine Black Pine rezone? None? All right. Nobody in this chamber, nobody in line. Online, I should say, I'd request a motion to adjourn that hearing then and go to a public meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Let's go to action on the public hearing. So I'd look for approval or action on ordinance. This would be 2023-41, a zoning map amendment and development agreement to rezone 19.43 acres of property located at approximately 5900 West, 900 South Ogden, from A2 agricultural to MT manufacturing and technology. We call that the Black Pine, as presented by Mr. Bill Kobabe this afternoon.
Make a motion. Sorry. Did you have a
Go
comment?
ahead, Commissioner
Make a
Paul.
motion to approve ordinance 2023-41.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote for ordinance 2023-41. Commissioner Bolos?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Ford?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we're now to our agenda to talk about commissioner comments.
None for me.
Commissioners?
None for me, Mr. Commissioner.
Really?
Mr. Chair, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, none for me. So we do have a request to go into a closed session, commissioners. Not that we haven't spent enough time here this morning, but this is a fairly important item. So I'd look for a motion to close the session, to go into a closed session to discuss purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Isn't it a roll call vote to go into closed, Liam? Oh, I thought it was. Okay, sorry.
I'm going to take a verbal.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're now in closed session. We'll be back after that closed session. I can't guarantee you what time that might be. Public meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Just make an announcement. We had a closed session, no action was taken. I now look for a final motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.